What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode number 9 of the Depthsposting podcast. I am pretty excited to put this out. Today I'm talking to Ben Traylor. Um, it was really funny that how this episode almost came to be, because it was when we were planning it out, he had pretty much told me that, he didn't know if he was going to really be able to talk about much. But I definitely do get some interesting conversation out of him. We talk about his music project, which I'm really excited to talk about. And so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So this is my conversation with Ben Traylor. Enjoy.
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm alright. I'll just make sure that I got it to start recording.
All right, cool, man.
Yeah, no, my laptop's been giving me issues lately, but this week I think I've done like 3 different podcasts, and every single time it's like there's something either with the laptop or with Skype. So it's not just you.
Oh yeah, dude. I probably haven't used Skype since God, I don't know, man. It's been like literal years.
Yeah, no, I just started using it again, like when I just started after doing a few episodes of the podcast, some people recommended that I just use Skype more. So I used to do it. I used to use this like little call recorder over my phone.
Oh, okay.
And it just either I don't really remember what the issue was, but okay, so every single time I used that, it would like cut out a few minutes before the episode ended. So like I'd always have I
Okay.
think I have like 2 episodes that I've done that. And one of them I was able to fix, but the other 2, there's like 2 of them that are like that. So that's what's
Yeah,
super
that's always
exciting.
fun.
Yeah, and and then I remember like the first time it happened, it was like I was listening to making sure that everything was fine. I usually listen to the ending just to make sure like everything's like put together, because like I put like an intro and outro, and I put like an intro song, and so I want to make sure like that's all there. And as I was like going through it, and because I put everything together, and as I was going through it, I was like, huh, the ending of this is missing. So that was fun. That's always fun. But now since I started using Skype, it's definitely been easier. But it's just my laptop that just gives me issues sometimes. And then the new interface for Skype is also very weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a giant iPhone or something.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, anyway, how are you?
I'm doing good. I just got home. I'm enjoying a beer right now. I just slammed some Panda Express on the way home, so.
I don't know if we have it here, but where I used to live, we used to have like 4 in the surrounding area, and I've actually never been to Panda Express. I've always
It's
been to
like, it's pretty low quality, but it's pretty good. I mean, if you're on a budget and just want some quick Chinese food, it's not bad.
No, I know why we don't have it, because it's only Chinese food, right? It's just like it's Chinese based.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
it wouldn't stand a chance here because we have too many other Chinese places here. But anyway, um, let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit. So usually what I like to start off asking people is, what was their upbringing like? Just give us like a little background of like who you are and like how you got there today.
Sure, man.
You know?
I grew up a little bit south of where I live now, about a half hour or so. Grew up in a Christian home, still consider myself a Christian. I go to church like every week and stuff. And I guess sometime in high school, I kind of, I guess just go back a little bit to like middle school, which is around the first time I got into like heavy music and stuff, which was about 12 years ago. And when I first got into that, I was I was like a really nerdy looking kid, and I was kind of chubby, so I got made fun of a lot. not just for my appearance, but like I was really nerdy. I was into like comic books and like video games and stuff. And it's like it's super weird seeing now that like nerd culture is so accepted, and it's like kind of frustrating that the way I grew up, I was considered like, and myself and my friends were considered like outcasts or like, kind of like losers because we liked comic books and like Lord of the Rings and stuff. But now it's like you go into Hot Topic and buy like an anime T-shirt and you're cool all of a sudden.
Yeah, and also like like the biggest thing now, like up on the rise, is I totally get where you're coming from. I was the same way back in middle school. I'm still the same way now. Like I'm in college now, and I'm haven't really changed much from who I was back in middle school or high school. But I mean,
Yeah, for
like
sure.
back when it comes back to society, like a big thing on the rise is esports. And like people are like considering video games to be a sport now as well.
Right, yeah. I mean, yeah, I got bullied a lot in middle school, probably like pretty much daily. There were a couple kids that um, they would always, they call me faggot or something like that, or they'd like push me around. And it never got like too extreme or anything. I never got into any like big fights or anything. Uh, but I guess like going through that made me really like with being made fun of for my appearance. It made me really insecure about my body, and I still have like body image issues, and I think a lot of people do. But going up into high school, I wouldn't say I was anorexic because I did eat, but I wouldn't eat very often. Like I would pretty much go the whole day without eating, and then I would eat dinner at my parents' house like when I got home. But for the most part, I don't really know why. Like other than that, I was kind of self-conscious about it. But I just for about 2 years, I just didn't really eat a whole lot, and I got taller and skinnier, and so I guess like I was still kind of an outcast, but I was, I guess, a little bit more popular with like the girls around school and stuff, and didn't really have trouble like uh, getting a date or something, or you know. So when I was in high school, I kind of like fell away from my faith a little bit, and really struggled with that because of like depression and stuff. And I guess like the big thing that triggered that was when my grandma died. She was like somebody that was really close to me, like probably my closest family member besides like my brothers and sisters and stuff. But when she passed, I don't know why, I kind of like blamed myself for it and kind of felt some sort of guilt because I wasn't really around a whole lot for the last couple of years of her life. And so I was angry at God for one, because I felt like, if there was an all-powerful God, like why couldn't he save this woman who was so special to me? And hold on, I'm like sitting on my stomach and it's like super hard to talk.
Yeah, you're fine.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. You're good.
Okay, cool. So yeah, like after that happened, I definitely fell away from my faith a lot, and got into like smoking pot a lot, and it was not a healthy thing for me because I used it as like kind of an outlet for my frustration and for my depression. And so basically anytime I was depressed or something, I would hit up my buddies that I would smoke with and be like, hey, let's hang out, man. And it was kind of like unhealthy for my friendships as well, because I was basically using that as like an excuse to like get pot. So that really like, I think doing that like changed me as a person just in general, but like not necessarily in a good way, if that makes sense.
No, I
But I started just getting into like bad shit and like defying my parents a lot. And there was about 2 or 3 years that I would go days or even weeks without like talking to my dad, and had like a really distant and bad relationship with him, because he was too strict and he was like holding me back from doing what I wanted to do. So it got like really, really tough there for a while that we didn't talk. But eventually, I stopped doing that once I met my wife, and we got married in 2014. So it's been almost 4 years now. And
Did you guys meet in high school, or was
no, we met like shortly after high school. It was like right at the end of high school that we met, and then we started dating like right after that. So
oh, that's cool. So technically, almost high school sweethearts.
yeah, sort of. I definitely went through a time before that where I was just with the wrong people. Had like a very parasitic relationship with a girl in high school, and it caused me to be somebody that I wasn't, so that I could, I guess, fit in a little bit more. So it was definitely good to like find somebody that, one, had my same morals and everything, and two, could like hold me up and support me and be a good role model in my life.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I totally get that. But one thing I really wanted to really go back to was I wanted to say thank you for putting yourself out there like that, the way you
No,
did
thank
for
you.
it, especially with the way that you said, the way you dealt with some body image stuff, and um, it's not really something that I don't really get to talk about doing this, which can it's kind of bittersweet. It's I'm glad that there aren't a lot of people that have gone through it, but it's also sad for the times that I do have to hear it with people. But I think in your instance, you're a guy, and I think when it comes to men, and we have the whole fragile masculinity thing, and it's like you don't really, I mean, when you think about guys at this point, like I don't think you really think about a guy having a body image, and I think that for you to just go ahead and out there and say something like that, I really do appreciate you saying that. I think you have to
Yeah,
open
I
up a.
mean,
I think
it
you have to.
definitely happens because
Yeah, it definitely does happen.
it's like we don't want to talk about it because it, you know, in hindsight, you think like it might make you seem kind of lame or feminine because oftentimes it's thought of as like a feminine issue, but really it's on both sides, just like anything else.
Exactly. And I think when people do hear that, they're gonna think. I mean, I think it's gonna really open up at least somebody's mind. To think, wow, I can't actually leave that, especially with the way that especially with the way that you are now. I don't think. I think when I do these episodes with a lot of people, and they talk about things like this, I think some people are like, wow, I can't believe that they went through that, or wow, this is something that I go through maybe now, and
Definitely,
obviously
yeah.
the way that they're looking, and obviously the way they are now is better than they were before. So it won't obviously whatever you're going through obviously won't last forever, and that's somewhat kind of the goal that I have here, doing it. So
Right, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is, um, sometimes we feel like isolated, and when you hear someone kind of share their experience, you're like, hey, I'm not the only person that's gone through this. And I think that's really important, especially with what's been going on in Hollywood and stuff, because for so long, so many women were afraid to speak out and say something about these men that were just abusing their power. And so then they felt comfortable to come out, and I think that that's so important, for sure.
absolutely, no, I was a huge advocate for that. I'm actually a huge advocate against sexual assault and domestic abuse and all these different things that are pretty predominant, unfortunately to say, in our society. And it's definitely taken a turn for the worse. But I'm glad that it's coming back around now. So that's always a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we definitely need men out there to step up and say something and to keep each other accountable
Exactly.
and
I'm sorry, go
just
ahead.
tell men like this isn't how you treat women. Um, and I know when I was in high school, I had issues with like I don't even really know what to call it. I have never and will never place a hand on a woman violently or sexually without consent, and But I think, I went through a time that I was, I guess, emotionally abusive, possibly, because there were times when, um, I don't know if you know that stage. That's like when you're not really friends with a girl, but you're not really dating. It's kind of like a middle stage where you're just kind of flirting and stuff. Well, I
Yeah,
guess you could say there were times when, I was doing that with multiple girls at a time. And it's definitely a dark part of my life that I look back on, and I don't regret it because I try not to regret anything. And I think I definitely learned from it and grew from it, and it kind of helps give me a new perspective on, I guess, uh, just treating women in general.
exactly. No, I understand what you mean completely. I think for a lot of people, I think both ends of this. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I think on both ends of the spectrum, I think you have to go through maybe something not similar, but something where it impacts a person of the other side, the person of the other gender,
Yeah, for sure.
to really grasp, that we're I'll never understand why that is. I'll never understand like why that we have to go through something, but I always see it through like a lot of people like we have to go through something in order to you know, understand the concept of, somebody else, especially when it comes to the other gender. And I think that that's just a thing that, growing up, that's what we have to do. I think a lot of people, a lot of guys have, and a lot of girls have also, have done something, maybe not along the lines, but maybe they have done it along the lines. And it's definitely something you look back on and something that you definitely think about and something that you can grow from, you know,
Yeah,
and
definitely. I mean, I think some of the time it's something that in the moment you don't really understand maybe that you're even doing it, but that's why it's so important for women to speak out as well and say like, hey, what you this thing that you did was not okay, and it can't happen again. And so I think a lot of the times you kind of look back on that and think like, oh wow, I at the moment I didn't even know what I was doing, but now that I know to not do that anymore. And I think the issue is that a lot of men haven't gone through something like that. No one ever told them. No one ever said like, hey, you're pushing past my boundaries. Um, you're putting me in an uncomfortable position. And so since they've never been told that, it's like you kind of have to expect like you can't just say like it's okay because they never experienced something. Because I think inherently as a human, you should have common decency and like respect for other people. So um, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is like you can't excuse it because they haven't gone through something, but at the same time, that's why we have to have these conversations, is so that before something happens, they can hear like, oh, that's something that's not okay. Now I know like that's something that I shouldn't do. I shouldn't treat people like that. So
yeah. For sure. And you know what though? I think I'm trying. I'm not gonna get too political with it, but I think what we're going through in the world right now is definitely it's definitely like a thing for everybody. I think it's like it's definitely like that moment, those times that we have to have in order to look back on. I think when it comes to this aspect, because it seems like you know everyone is like distancing themselves from each other because of the current state that our world is in. And I
yeah,
think that, 10 years from now or 20 years from now when we're going to look back on it, and I think that's going to be our lesson. That's going to be just like a giant lesson for our generation, our society, the future generations, even like the previous ones. Like, I think it's just going to be a lesson for everybody, in like, not in a political sense, but in the sense of how we treat each other. Because the way that we're
yeah,
treating each other right now, it definitely isn't the best. So,
yeah. I think on sides it's going to be a big learning experience because for men obviously um, it's a I mean obviously for the men that are like doing these unspeakable acts, it's going to hopefully shock them into a different mindset. And for the guys that haven't necessarily done anything, but maybe they've been a bystander. It's going to teach them to say something if they see something happening, or if they hear about something happening, to like take that seriously. And on the other side of the coin, I think it's important for women to know that they shouldn't be afraid to speak out against somebody if they've done something wrong. And I think, we need to have strong women like that that'll say, hey, this guy, he sexually assaulted me. It's not okay. And everyone should know about it, because it needs to stop happening.
Absolutely. And I truly do believe that we have people like that on both ends of the spectrum. People who are strong enough to say something, and people who are strong enough to, to do something about it. Even in our community. Like, I think we definitely, have those people in there, and I'm super happy about that. I think that, that everyone that we have in our community is very strong-willed, and everyone in our community knows, is very self-aware.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
so
And that's one of the things that drew me to like the group, was that, obviously I love Silent Planet and I've been in them for a couple years now, but just knowing that like the people that follow them have the same values as Garrett and the other guys, and we all lift each other up and support each other through endeavors, and send prayers and thoughts and everything. I think it's really, really cool. And I think it's a great community we have, for sure.
absolutely, I love what we put together. I really do. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Let's not um, kind of just make it a little bit more fun. I know that you. All right, so actually, let's go take it back a little bit. So you said that you got into heavy music when you were in middle school, right?
Yeah, yeah. I had a friend who he introduced me to all like the Solid State and like Tooth and Nail bands, like Under Oath and like Nodes of Ranveer and stuff like that, like really old school, like, because he was like a really conservative Christian, and so he liked heavy music, but he kind of had to find a way to find heavy music that also echoed like Christian values and stuff, and so that's how he got into those bands. Which I know, like, different conversation, but Under Oath is not technically a Christian band. But anyways, he introduced me to all those bands, and I think the first one that really clicked for me was Under Oath. I mean, they've been my favorite band ever since then. Just like hearing "To Find the Great Line" and those albums that just are iconic. I was just like completely blown away. I think I listened to it like 10 times in a row the first time I got it, because I was just so like, I didn't know music could sound like that, because before that I listened to some rock and stuff like Skillet and bands like that are a little kind of cringy, to think about it. But
Now that you kind of listen back to it, now you're kind of just like, can't believe I used to listen to this band.
oh, for sure. And I
No,
mean,
I
even
definitely have some of those bands. Trust me.
yeah, I
I
mean,
think I've
even
heard
when I
most
got
of
into
those.
heavy music, I listened to like Asking Alexandria and like these bands that just they weren't really that great, and they didn't really have anything special about them looking back on it, especially like with how far metalcore has evolved. But it's like hearing it in the moment when you've never heard anything like that. It's like it's something really special, and so I'm glad I got into those bands, because they propelled me into other bands that, I mean, are just so much better and are still killing it even 10 years later.
Absolutely. No, I definitely have my fair share of bands that that if I listen to it now, I'm kind of just like, I don't know about this one.
Well,
Of course, there's
I
still like songs like from way back when I can still throw on and still have a jam with.
oh,
But
for sure. I mean, I think everyone when they're like 16, 17, we all just listen to bad music. We don't really know what good music is yet, and so
because
we just we just kind of listen to what we can get.
yeah, pretty much. And I think it was just because like during that time, it's like we just hyped up those bands so much that's um that like that's those, basically like they were the gateway in a
Yeah,
sense.
for
But like
sure.
these are all bands that like we hyped up, and now that like they're the forefront of the genre. But we have other bands that are also starting to take over as well. That are you know the bands that are just starting out. So
Right. Yeah.
that's definitely cool to see, especially some of the new bands that are just now coming out and seeing them being able to just take it by the forefront is definitely a cool thing.
Right. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't. I mean, you wouldn't have bands like Currents or like I'm trying to think of some newer bands that are out,
Uh,
or
I
like
guess,
Thousand Below or something like that.
yeah, Wage War.
Yeah, like we wouldn't have those bands if it wasn't for like the music that we look back on and think like, what the hell were we thinking? You know?
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of music, I know that you're working on something yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I started on it a couple weeks ago. I wanted to have it ready for when we had our conversations, so I could plug it, but I haven't had a whole lot of time to work on it. I'm hopefully gonna finish it up by the end of the month. I really only get spurts of time that I get to record, so I try to get as much done as possible. Sometimes I get, almost a half a song done, and sometimes I just scrap everything because I hate it,
Yeah, no,
which
I
is
get
what I
that.
did on Saturday. I was
Well,
recording some vocals, and I was listening back to them every time, and I'm just like, wow, this sounds awful. And so I just scrapped all of that. Was like, well, maybe another day.
well, here I'll tell you what. Because I already have a few other episodes recorded, and so I know that you said that you need time in order to put it together. I can release this at a time when you're like near done, and this way people when it's just starting to come out, people can already listen to the background of it and where it came from. So whatever you can talk about right now, you know, I'm
Well, I
pretty sure will
mean,
be
uh,
information released later.
yeah, I mean, you could throw it up whenever. I don't care. I mean, I plan on, when I release the song, I want to put together like a little lyric video or something, and just, throw it up on my personal page, throw it up on the Depthsposting page. But yeah, really, right now it's just me, myself, and I, just doing some stuff kind of for fun for now. But I do have a couple people that I've been conversing with, and I've been sending parts back and forth with one of my other friends who's been in this Cincinnati scene for a while. So there's something coming. I don't know when, but it'll happen.
I got you. So have you played in bands before, or is this like your first ever venture?
Well, it'll be my first heavy band actually, which is surprising to a lot of people and to myself as well. Because I mean, I've been listening to heavy music for 12 years now, and I haven't been in one heavy band. It just kind of never happened. I never had the opportunity. But now that I have my own recording set up, it's not great, but it's something. And I kind of have been writing more. I can, kind of start something up myself and just kind of build onto it. But I have been in other bands before, mostly like pop punk and like not really heavy stuff, but like I guess you could say like almost like Hands Like House's newest album, like kind of that style where it's not really metalcore, but it's kind of like
It's like metalcore light.
right. It's like low drop tunings, but like mostly clean vocals and stuff, and like a little bit of electronic stuff mixed in. But yeah, this will be my first time I'm actually doing something that's going to be heavy and kind of technical. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
And what are you trying to draw inspiration from with this project of yours?
Lately, I've been drawing inspiration from a lot of stuff. I mean, from a writing perspective, like lyrics and even some guitar parts, I've been drawing from Northlane a lot, especially their newest album, Mesmer. I think that album's a freaking masterpiece. Like, I love it. I put it on all the time just to. I think it's just it's just quality music, and that, and like even heavier bands like Wage War or like Body Snatcher, for like the really heavy kind of genty tones and stuff like that. And then a little bit of like Tesseract, because bands like that, Tesseract and Animals as Leaders, those like really propelled me into actually playing this kind of music, because like when I listen to music like that, I'm just like, dude, I want to play like I want to play stuff like that, because there's just so much talent involved and stuff, and it really like inspires me to get better at guitar, because I mean I'm not as good as I should be. So occasionally I'll put on Jason Richardson or something and just be like, okay, I need to practice for a couple hours today.
Yeah, No, I definitely like see people like, and I don't play anything myself. I kind of just read a lot. Um, but like I'll like look at the video because it's still interesting to me. Like there's like see like music videos about gear, and then like seeing like tutorials on like how things are played, and
Right.
people I know like see in the comment section. I can't speak today. Um, about how like they watched it and they're like, oh well, I guess I'm just gonna give up on drums or guitar or singing at this point.
Right. No, yeah, it can be discouraging at first because you're watching those guys and they're just moving so quickly, and you're like, I'm never going to be able to do that. But the thing is, like, those guys worked so hard to like get where they are, and at one point they sucked just like you did. So it's like, not everyone moves at the same pace, even because I've been playing guitar since I was, I think, 16. But I would say I'm only at like maybe an intermediate level of playing because I mean there's a lot of stuff that I can't play, and I'll sit down for a couple hours and I get frustrated. But really that just it just reminds me I need to practice more and just like commit to it and not just give up so easily.
Absolutely. Let's see here. I was gonna add something when you were talking about all that, and it slipped my mind. And
You're all good.
this happens almost every time.
This is
Uh,
what this is what editing is for.
this is true. Though to be honest with you, though, like I don't really edit it. I don't really edit a lot of the podcast episodes, just for the
Yeah.
sake of well, one, I'm just incredibly lazy, and two, I think that um, I don't know. I just with editing and things, it's just like I like to keep things as real as possible, and I feel like when you edit it too much, it takes
Yeah,
away
for
from the
sure.
realism that could
I
have
mean,
been. So I
yeah,
feel
it's
so.
not perfect for sure.
Yeah,
And you got to keep it organic.
yeah,
You know, we,
exactly.
we
So
gotta we gotta mess up a couple times for sure.
yeah, exactly. And I'm sure at one point I'll stop forgetting things because this happens almost every time. But anyway, what I was gonna say was no, it's just slipped my mind again. But yeah, no, well, I definitely just don't edit out anything, just for the sake of keeping it organic. And I think I talked to somebody about this before, and so yeah, just aside from being incredibly lazy, that's the other reason why I just don't, because I totally could do it. It's just a matter of wanting to be original.
Yeah, I mean, I've recorded a couple podcast episodes, and it's definitely like it takes a lot longer than the actual episode to like go through and edit like every little thing. It's like sometimes it's just not worth it.
No, no, actually, to be honest with you, when I was moving all the episodes to YouTube, that process took me about like more than all the episode time combined, and I have a 2.5 hour episode. So,
Right.
so, so yeah, that definitely took me a while just to do that. What was the thing? Okay, wait, I remember now. So you're playing everything with this project, I'm assuming, right?
Um, Everything except for drums. I'm doing software drums within Logic. So I'm building drum parts. I'm just not playing them myself. Even if I could, I couldn't because I'm not a drummer. And I'm also kind of restricted. I mean, I live in an apartment, so I can't really. Even if I could play drums, I couldn't really like
Make all that
record drums
noise.
in here for sure.
Yeah, I got you. I understand that. No, I used to have a drum kit back when I was living in North Carolina, but it wasn't that I. It wasn't for me to play. It was like my little brothers. I like just mess around on it, but like even so, like we lived in a house, but it was like in a cookie cutter neighborhood, so everything's so close together. So like
Right.
I could literally hit a snare and it would echo throughout three houses, like going either side.
Yeah, that's like the one thing that I still really want to learn how to play drums, but I've never had a kit and have never had the time to just kind of sit down. I've sat down with a couple of YouTube videos and about like paradiddles and different rhythms and stuff, and just like kind of banging on my knee and whatever. But I that's the one thing that I still want to learn. Maybe that'll be a 2018 goal for me.
Yeah, learn how to play drums. How did you learn how to play guitar? And I'm assuming you're doing vocals, right?
Yeah, I'm doing vocals. I've been singing for quite a while. I used to sing in choir at my church when I was really young, and then I stopped for a while because I went through puberty, and my voice just didn't want to do anything that I wanted it to do. And then I actually picked singing back up around the time I learned how to play guitar. Uh, at the church I used to attend, the youth group was going to start a like a youth band, and I like really wanted to be in it, but like at the time, I couldn't really sing that well. I was still kind of maturing and stuff and trying to find my range. And so one of the adults who's a friend of mine's dad, he was like, well, you should learn guitar. I'll teach you how to play. So he's been playing since like the 70s or something. And so he's like, I'll teach you how to play. Just get a cheap guitar. You don't need anything special. And so I bought a $100 guitar. I can't even remember the brand name of it. I don't even think it had a brand name. But I got it for Christmas one year. This is like this bright red, just ugly piece of shit guitar. And so I was like, I got a guitar. Now you can teach me how to play. And so we got together and sat down, and he taught me my basic chords and, what the frets meant and different notes and stuff. And I already knew a little bit of music theory because I was in concert band for about 4 years. I was in middle school and then my freshman year. So I knew like the theory part of it, and I'm like, okay, this is the E string, so obviously the next thing is an F sharp, that kind of deal. So I pretty much knew that. And so he taught me that stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and play all these chords a bunch of times, and hopefully something good will happen. And so eventually I ended up joining the band, and I wasn't great, but I could hit most of my chords and everything like that. I had a little crappy Line 6 amp that I played through, and it worked for the time being. And then I picked singing back up probably in high school because I stopped playing electric for a while, which is why I'm not very good at it now. And I fell in love with the acoustic guitar. Actually, it's really weird. A lot of people start out with acoustic and move to electric, but I actually started the opposite way, which is probably not great because, like, an acoustic guitar has like thicker strings and stuff, and so it's a little bit more difficult to play. But I got an acoustic guitar, I think the next year for Christmas, and fell in love with it. And I was like, I want to do. I was listening to like, I don't know if you know who John Foreman is. He's from Switchfoot, and he does like some acoustic stuff. And I was like, I want to do that. That that sounds easy and cool and stuff. And so I played basically like folk music for a while, and had a little solo project going for a couple of years. And then I got kind of bored with it and decided I want to pick up an electric again. And so I got rid of my shitty red guitar and I bought this Mexican-made Telecaster, which I don't have anymore, and I'm really mad that I sold it, but don't have that one anymore. But I picked that one back up and actually started leading my youth band at church, and so that was about the same time I picked up singing again. So I was singing and playing guitar and stuff. So once I like got into the scene in Cincinnati, I was kind of used to that, and so basically I just posted on, I don't even know if it was MySpace or Facebook at the time. I think both were pretty popular, but Facebook was kind of like on the rise a little bit.
Okay.
So I posted, and I was like, or I messaged a couple of friends, and I was like, hey, I play guitar and sing, and I write music. Do you want to play in a band with me? And so I found a drummer, and my brother played guitar as well, so he was in the band. And then my best friend, he played bass at the time, or he played guitar, but I taught him how to play bass, and so he played bass for us, and we played probably 10 shows before we called it quits, or before I called it quits, I guess. It just kind of, for a while, up until a couple years ago, I kept getting bored with projects, and I would go on big strains of like writer's block, and so I wouldn't be writing any music, and I would just be like, all right, well, this is too much work, I'm done with it. So up until about a couple of years ago, I joined a band called Nova, and well, technically I formed the band with a couple of friends, and it just kind of evolved from there. And we were basically playing like if I See Stars went like soft. So it was like we had EDM and stuff, but it was like I said before, like kind of hands like houses, instrumentals and stuff like that. And so we did that for a couple years, and I think last year we just we didn't really officially decide, but it was just kind of like an unspoken thing that it was done with. So people had other interests and opportunities, and so we just kind of went our separate ways. I still talk to all of them, a couple of them pretty regularly because I go to church with them. But yeah, that pretty much leads up to now, where I've kind of been doing my own thing, and just I want to do something creative on my own again, and just kind of write my own music. And so that's what led to me starting this song. So that was a big long rant, and I'm sorry, but
No, you're good. You're good. You definitely answered a few questions that I had in there too, because I was going to ask you about singing and playing guitar at the same time, and you
oh
already
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm not really sure how that's gonna translate. I basically, if I start a band soon, I'm probably gonna be either singing and screaming, or I'm gonna be playing guitar, um, or like playing guitar and singing, and then get like a heavy vocalist or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's something I very recently started doing, and I'm still kind of garbage at it, but I'm working on it. So,
I got you. Have you ever put out anything like actually recorded? Is there anything that anyone can find? Or not
um,
currently?
you know what? I think I might have like some stuff on my SoundCloud, and I don't even remember the name of my SoundCloud, but I have some like little covers and stuff that I've done. But I mean, it's been like years since I've put out a song, like a full band song,
Hmm.
and this is the first time I started recording full band stuff. Um, I think about a year ago, I kind of like experimented with it, but it's still like a learning process because I going into it, I didn't. I mean, I knew obviously how to play guitar and stuff, but I didn't know like the science behind recording, and I didn't know anything about sound or like mixing or layering or anything like that. Like, no, any of it. I just, I got Logic one day and I opened it up. Well, I used to use GarageBand, but I upgraded to Logic, and I opened it and I'm like, wow, this is a lot. And so I I just, in between recording, I'm just looking at YouTube videos, even to this day, just trying to figure out, how to make vocals sound more professional, and how to like mix guitars, how to mix drums without, washing out the entire mix and stuff like that. And so it's been like quite a learning experience. And honestly, I've been slowly scrapping everything that I've recorded in the past, just because I want to kind of usher in a new era, I guess, and get into just a different area creatively for me. And so I'm likely, probably by the end of this month, I'm going to just clear my SoundCloud, and just, that'll be when I put up this most recent song I'm doing. So, yeah.
All right. Sounds good. I think that's everything I wanted to ask. And you
Awesome.
def- and you definitely did a great job of answering, so I definitely do thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So yeah, that's about wraps it up.
Man, thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, not a problem, dude. I
All right.
definitely appreciate it. I'll definitely see you around.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, have a good one. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. As always, you guys know that you can always leave any feedback that you deem necessary, whether it be positive or negative. You can message me where you know to message me. You can leave a comment in the video. You can email depthspostingpodcast@gmail.com. And that's about it. So I will see you guys next time for another episode of Depthsposting Podcast. Have a wonderful day.